When you order a set of new wheels, the rear wheel is likely to come without a cassette set already mounted on it. Alternatively, a cassette set may be available for mounting by the manufacturer, at which point the owners are encouraged to do their own thinking as to how many gears they want on the cassette set, and in each gear how many teeth they want on each sprocket. In this video I'll show you what's involved in mounting and removing a cassette set from a modern freehub. I'll show you the tools and the skills involved. Let me put you down here closer and start with removal, because removal is just faster, as well as one additional tool is needed for removal that isn't needed for mounting. So it removes with a lock ring that needs to be undone or tightened, and that needs a lock ring removal tool. This fits like so, and then this lock ring can be tightened or removed. This particular one happens to be made by Park Tool, and its number is FR-5.2G, and it has these splines on them. That's the action part, and a stud at the center that just helps with aligning, doesn't do any other function. So it's these splines that engage with the internal teeth on this lock ring. Now, tightening this lock ring is done in a direction, this direction, where the pawls inside the freehub engage, because it's in the same direction of rotation as tightening. So this would be removal, and tightening goes this way. So for tightening, I grab this with a 1-inch socket that's on a torque wrench. The torque wrench is made to exert 40 Newton meters of tightening torque that's specified by the manufacturer. This one is calibrated or marked in foot-pounds of torque and in Newton meters of torque, or in this case decanewton meters. So 40 Newton meters is 4 decameters, so 4.0 can be selected on it somewhere. It is 4.2, so this one will work for tightening, and tightening is very straightforward. It needs just these two tools. Keep rotating until you reach 40 Newton meters. Now, removal needs one other tool, and this is a homemade variant of it that I wanted to feature. There are nicer looking ones. It's made of 2 pieces of used bicycle chain and slightly rusty, never cleaned it, flat piece of steel plate that I grabbed from the steel recycling garbage waste bin. The chain gets wrapped around one of the, I usually like using the largest sprocket on the cassette set, why not? And so this will hold the cassette set from rotating in the direction of removal. So it's obviously doesn't have a whole lot of tightening torque exerted on it, but it already needs this tool to be on it, at least in the combination that it fits the camera, and so you can see what's going on. So obviously, when it's tightened with 40 Newton meters of torque, your hand placement needs to be different. So with the lock ring loosened, I'm gonna show you what's on the underside of this lock ring. That's an important feature. So it has a small washer, or a thin washer on it, and some serrations there in the edge of it. Those serrations engage with the serrated surface of the first sprocket. Okay, so it just holds, these serrations just hold together from becoming loose under vibration. So I hope that makes sense. So all of these sprockets just slide off. Now the first two are not flat, and their thicknesses are just like so, so that they don't need a spacer in between. The distances between the gear teeth are just perfect for the cassette set with as many gears as you have on it. However, the positions of these, where they should be mounted, is critical. This one happens to have 11 teeth, and this one has 12 teeth, and they are lining up only in one particular direction, and that direction is this. This is a wider tab on the inside here. This wider tab, narrow, 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 narrow. Okay, so you have to line them up. They will engage with the splines on the free hub. I'll show you only in this way. Okay, so it will not work this way or in any other way. Okay, so this alignment has to be done this way. The rest are flat sprockets, like so, and alternate with spacers. These are some plastic spacers. So sprocket, spacer. Don't have to do it one at a time. I'm just showing you the features. You can just pull all of them off. Obviously they come off like so, and they make a huge mess, but once they do and they end up on the floor, oh my god, how am I gonna put it back together? I'll show you. Very straightforward. So you'll end up with a free hub like this, and there's a narrow spline on the free hub with a wide space next to it. Everywhere else, uniform or identical splines and identical spaces are on this free hub. So you have to find the narrow one. Oops, I over rotated it because I want to leave the camera here. So there, so there's the narrow spline with the wide space. There. Now, for this particular cassette set, which is 11 speeds when it's all assembled, it fits this length of this hub. For mounting 8, 9 or 10 speed cassette sets, there is a spacer that the manufacturer usually leaves on this hub. The spacer also has tabs and notches that line up with the spline layout. So there's a narrow notch here with a wide tab next to it. So this only goes on this way, or of course, if you try to put it on backwards, you might think, oh, it's gonna fit, but no, it won't, because the narrow notch there lines up with the narrow spline, but the wider tab next to it doesn't line up with the narrow space next to it. So even the spacer only fits one way. Narrow spline, wide space with narrow notch, wide tab. There, just one way. Okay. And the manufacturer leaves it on and usually puts an elastic band or a rubber band on it like so. There. So that's what you see typically. This is how it comes from the manufacturer. Now let's put the components back on it. There, so that's where the narrow spline is, and there's the wide space next to it. So these only fit one way. You cannot even put them on backwards because of the because of the spacing of the narrow spline and the wide tab next to it. It cannot be reversed. It cannot be put back on wrong. It just won't slide on this easily. So this first set of 3 has its own spacer on it, so nothing else is needed there. There has never been a spacer between this and the largest. Just find the largest sprocket and find the narrow cutout on it and the wide tab next to it. So this one is backwards, so turn it around. Obviously when you're done, the numbers will all line up on the finished cassette set assembly. The narrow notch lines up with the narrow spline, the wide tab with the wide space. It only goes on one way. Grab a spacer. The spacers go on in any orientation. They don't need to be oriented in any special way. Find the next largest one. Again, narrow notch, wide tab. They line up just one way. Again, doesn't go on backwards. It cannot possibly fit on. It just doesn't. Okay, that's a geometric necessity there. One spacer, one sprocket, one spacer, one sprocket, until you have it all built up, and put the lock ring on it when you're done. Don't cross thread it. So that's what's involved. Those are the tools that are needed. Fairly straightforward. Can be a little tedious. It could be a geometric challenge, but it's not rocket science. Thanks for watching.